Let's talk a little bit about the bottom of the order in this series and just kind of big picture, Blake. We know that this isn't a group that inspires confidence. We know that the Dodgers need to add reinforcements. I've phrased it as they need to add one bat that we really like and one bat that we don't hate to bottom this group. As I look at the list of guys that they're sort of penciling into the, I guess, 6, 7, 8, and 9 hole when Max Muncy is out, it's a long list of players. And sort of the premise of the conversation I want to have with you is I'm looking at a list of Jason Heyward, Andy Pages, Miguel Vargas, Chris Taylor, Gavin Lux, Miguel Rojas, Kike Hernandez, and James Outman, currently in AAA, but I'm including them in this group. Of those, let's see, 8 players. If I told you that I just came back from the future and I said, Blake, of the 8 guys I just mentioned, by the time we get to September, you're not going to hate 2 of these guys. There are going to be 2 of these names that I just read where they're going to come up in a spot in October, and you're not going to hate it. You're not going to love it, but you're not going to hate it nearly as much as you do now. Who's the first guy that you would guess and say, I would predict that the player I would not hate 2 months from now, 3 months from now is who?
Andy Pages, but I already don't hate him, so seems like the easy answer there.
Any fear of kind of a rookie regression? We saw James Outman go through ups and downs. We've seen him kind of have bouts of inconsistency. The contact hasn't been necessarily super high quality of late, even if the box score continues to be filled up. But any fear? I mean, because Pages and Rojas are the 2 guys on this list who are actually performing. So it's not totally fair to include those guys, and yet neither of them has a track record that necessarily makes you feel supremely confident. I think that there's going to be a continuation.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always that fear there with a rookie because you don't really know what you're going to get. And one of the concerns with Pages was, like, is he going to be able to make enough contact at the major league level? And how is he going to bounce back from his shoulder surgery that he had in the offseason? So there's definite concerns there. But I think what inspires me a little bit more with him is he already went through a slump that was pretty brutal. Like, we got to the point of talking about, does he need to go back to the minor leagues or things like that? And he was able to bounce back from it and start producing again. So I think that always bodes well for a player when they can have those kind of mini comebacks in there after their slumps there. So that inspires me a little bit more with him. I think even if his batting average ends up dropping a bit more, I think he has the power eventually to kind of make up for that and even itself out a bit, because he's kind of been a singles and doubles hitter so far. And he was pretty much projected to be a home run kind of only guy. So to not see those home runs come at a consistent basis yet, I think there is more left for him to reach. So that's kind of my thought process with him. There are concerns, but every player in the bottom of the lineup on this team has concerns. So it's just kind of picking, like, which are you least concerned about? And for me, I think Pages has the ability to kind of fight through those slumps and come back from them and produce still.
Yeah, I think I'm with you that he'd be on the top of my list. I just feel like we don't have a reason. Like, the tiebreaker amongst all these guys is the guy that we're actually seeing do it right now. Like, we don't have to imagine what it would look like for him to not be terrible. If you look at his StatCast stuff, barrel rate, hard hit rate are both 70th percentile or higher. All of his expected numbers, expected batting average, expected on base average, expected slugging, are about league average, which that might not sound super awesome, but when you're comparing him to the other 7 guys on this list, we would kill for league average. The issue with him is his chase rate, his whiff rate, his strikeout rate, and his walk rate are all really, really bad. And so that's where the concern is. But I think, to your point, you could project, oh, well, teams are going to adjust and therefore he's going to struggle. But I think on the same token, you could say, well, maybe he's got a little more in him. Maybe he gets a little bit more comfortable and starts to hit a little bit. So I'm with you on Pages. If I forced you to pick a second name off of this list, again, we've got Heyward, Vargas, Taylor, Lux, Rojas, Kike, and James Outman. Who would be the second guy that you would pick?
I feel like I have a few ways I could go with this. Like, off the top of my head, I want to say Vargas, but he's not getting any run to make that impact. So, like, I just can't go with him until they actually show that they're going to give him a chance to play every day. Miguel Rojas has already been playing well, but they're probably going to keep him in that bench role through the season, and I just don't really see him being that kind of guy that they're going to use every day. So then it comes down to a toss-up between Lux or Heyward for me, I think. And I'm probably going to lean Lux.
Wow!
Yeah.
Holy crap. Somebody get this. Somebody. Oh, man. This screen recording is going up for ages, Blake. He's buying the Gavin Lux stock. I am here for it.
It's more so that I think he can be like league average like he was last year, or even like a 90 weighted runs created plus guy. And like, that's fine. I don't think it's worth moving Mookie to shortstop for him. Like, I'd still like to see them go make an upgrade. But if you told me at the end of the year, Lux was hitting like 280 from this point on or something with a 320, 330 on base percentage, I wouldn't be totally shocked.
Yeah.
He looked good today. I mean, I think there's a lot more talent than what he's shown. It's just my thing with Lux is I don't think he's a good fit for this team specifically because you're moving around the defense. It's causing problems. Like Mookie's not getting it done at shortstop, no matter what the Dodgers want to say. So I just don't think Lux really has a spot on this team long term, or he's necessarily worth it to keep around. But I still do have some faith that the offense is going to start trending up at some point.
I want to say three things. First of all, I apologize to anybody who's wearing earphones and I just screamed in their ears when he said Lux. I was expecting Lux to be at the bottom of his list. It wasn't. The second thing is, it has to be said, we are comparing Lux to the other 7 guys on this list. We are not just, it's not Lux in a vacuum. So that's worth pointing out. And everybody knows I have been trying as hard as I could to hold on to my Gavin Lux stock. 2022, this was a 114 weighted runs created plus guy across 500 plate appearances. 2021, he was a 90 weighted runs created plus guy over to 400 appearances. So he has shown us extended stretches of being a average to slightly above average. I just see the comments. Hitter. All dark blue on Baseball Savant, except for the chase rate, the strikeout rate, and the whiff rate. He's bottom 25% in all expected numbers, exit velocity, barrel rate. And so it's just a tough one. I'm with you. I'm not going to argue with Gavin Lux because I still want to believe that there's something in there coming back from the knee injury, all of it. And so I just love to see that from you. I'm actually going to go with the name, and you probably know what name I'm going to say, but you didn't even mention it.
Outman.
James Outman. Maybe I think the best and the worst in me, Blake, is that I hold on too long. It's that I hold on too long, right? And it's sometimes it comes back around and I look like a genius, and other times people think I'm crazy. I mean, James Outman, 32% strikeout rate, terrible. 32% whiff rate, terrible. Just last year, we saw this guy over an extended stretch put it together. His barrel rate was 72nd percentile. He walked 12% of the time. He wasn't chasing stuff. He gets sent down to AAA this year. He's got an OPS of 1058. He's got 4 homers, 4 steals, and 21 runs in 18 games. He's got a 20% walk rate down there. He's got an on-base percentage that's nearly 500. And so I know what it looks like. And again, we're putting in context the 7 or 8 names on here. But I just feel like he's going to get another chance. And I feel like as a guy I've seen do it before, that gives me some confidence. Like, you didn't even mention him. So is he one of the guys at the bottom of the list for you?
I think so. My concern with Outman is like what we saw this year is more in line with the track record of what scouts have been saying about him through his whole minor league career. And it kind of seems like his rookie year was a bit of an outlier. And even during his rookie year, he had a lot of like really high points and then really low points. So it was good to see him bounce back from his struggles a bit last year. But at the same time, like, he's always been a guy scouts thought as a 4th outfielder with some pop who's not going to make a lot of contact and strike out too much. So that's just my main thing with him. I think Lux kind of has that pedigree, which is why I went over with him. Like, Lux was a top prospect who was praised for his contact ability and his presence at the plate. So I just think maybe there's a little more in there that I could bet on if I'm picking between them. And like, I feel like Heyward is also above Outman for me too. Heyward has been solid this year when he's played. He was good last year. He's just very much stuck into his platoon role, and I don't really see that changing. So maybe that helps him a bit there. But yeah, I just don't have much faith in Outman figuring it out.
Let me ask you this. Do we agree that Chris Taylor and Kike Hernandez are the bottom 2 guys in this grouping of 8? Or would you have Outman down below one of them?
No, I'd have Kike last and Taylor ahead of him.
So Kike's below Taylor.
Yes. I mean, like, you and Scott, I think, talked about this a lot. Like, since 2019 or something, Kike's been one of the worst hitters in baseball, and he's had 1 year being above average.
He's had 1 season over an 86 weighted runs created plus dating back to 2019.
Yeah, and I think since last year or something, he's the 7th worst hitter in baseball, and that's worse than Chris Taylor in that same
I
time.
imagine Austin Barnes is somewhere in the 1 through 6 in that category.
I don't think he's qualified for the
Okay,
list
good for
there.
him. Shout out to
So,
Barnesy.
yeah, I mean, I just don't see much upside with Kike. Like, he'll come through with some hits here and there when he's platooning against lefties, but if I had to pick pure upside, I think I'm just going with Chris Taylor there because we've seen him be more productive in a more recent time period than Kike has. So, yeah, it's not like a high percentage that I'm picking there. It's kind of like a coin flip of who's going to be better for me. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Chris Taylor is hitting 102 this season. His expected batting average is 149. I've never seen a number that low in expected stats. He has a 114 slugging percentage and a 41% strikeout rate. A 41% strike. If he gets 5 at bats, he is striking out more than 2 times on average. That's an insane list. Kike Hernandez has actually been okay. 73rd percentile in exit velocity and hard hit. Kike's weird because if you look at his Savant page, it's actually semi-encouraging, which is bizarre because the eye test does not tell you any of that. Those guys are at the bottom. I'm with you. Vargas, I think, is the wild card because we know the pedigree. We know the bat is theoretically there. And if he ever got some run and some playing time, then maybe he'd be able to put it together in 20 at bats this year. He has 4 extra base hits, a home run, and 3 doubles, but they just refuse to use him, which is a weird one. And then Heyward, I think, is kind of like, what's interesting to me, Blake, and we can end this conversation on this topic. It's almost a question of like, what profile do you want? Because if you're like, hey, I just want a guy that's going to put the ball in play, not swing and miss. You've got some options there. Jason Heyward, not a high strikeout guy. Miguel Rojas, elite whiff rate, elite strikeout rate. Even Gavin Lux is like a good, he rates out well as far as chase rate, strikeout rate, and walk rate, or excuse me, whiff rate, versus guys like Outman, Pages, who are going to be like awful swing and miss guys with a little bit of. So it's almost like at this spot, like, do you have a profile that you prefer? Because I know we talk about, hey, just put the ball in play. And yet, to some degree, we didn't necessarily gravitate towards the put the ball in play guy. Although I guess you said Gavin Lux.
Yeah, generally I like players with more power, even if they're going to strike out. But I think when we're talking about getting back on track this year and just being able to be a league average contributor, I'm going to go with the more contact oriented profile. Like, I think it's easier just to slap some singles than it is to start hitting for power if that's the main part of your game there, which is partly why I'm going with Gavin Lux there. Like, if he ends up hitting 250 for the rest of the year, like, we're all going to be fine with that. It's not amazing, but I think he has the ability to do that. Is he going to be a great player or even a good player? Probably not, but can he be an average hitter with solid defense? Yeah, I think that's fair. So
yeah,
that's just kind of my thought process with him. I don't expect much from any of them necessarily, but I could see Lux just kind of becoming a singles hitter and helping to turn the lineup over, which is kind of what we hoped for him in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, 3 hits for Gavin Lux, again, in the final game against the Yankees. So, those balls weren't exactly scorched, but hey, a hit's a hit, goes into the box score as a line drive is literally the thing. So I'd love to hear from people who you like on that list. Again, the premise was, I shouldn't say that. It's not who you like. Who do you expect yourself to hate the least in 3 months was how we set that up.